pierced the veil of the future and beheld only oblivion. The Zerg swarm came as was foretold. And the Protoss rose to fight them.
The invasion fleet stands ready. We await only your command, High Arch.
Today, we will reclaim our homeworld!
Now, the Zelnaga that forged us all are returning.
The galaxy will burn with their coming. Fitting that we should face oblivion together.
Amon whispered of this from the stars. He told you of ruin, extinction, end of all things. The fate of creation hangs in the balance. My life for ire.
Conflict. As the world teetered on the brink of anarchy, a new hope arose. An elite international task force charged with ending the war and restoring liberty to all nations. Overwatch. Soldiers, scientists, adventurers, oddities. Guardians who secured global peace for a generation. Under its steadfast protection, the world recovered. And today, though its watch has ended, its soaring ideals of freedom and equality will never be forgotten.
That was so cool! In that one battle, they had Soundquake. Remember, he has, like, chest pistols? So which one's your favorite? Mine's Fusionator. No. Tracer. Yeah, Tracer. She's like, cheers, love. The cavalry's here. Pew, pew, pew. Whoa. That's Doomfist's gauntlet. Oh man, they said he could level a skyscraper. And remember, he was all fighting and Winston beat him and was like, Primal Punch!
That's only in the holovids. Everybody knows Overwatch got shut down. Half of them are just mercenaries now.
Enjoying the exhibit? All right, playtime's over. Get to cover.
Come on, move it!
There you are.
Psst, what are you looking at? Lorry's here. Come on, big guy. Get up. Oh no!
Stay here.
Watch out!
Hey!
You know, the world could always use more heroes. Yeah! That was awesome!
Have ye heard the rumblings? The mountain stirs once more. Beneath its crags, cliffs, and rocks, there's evil in its core. Fire made flesh, dragon's breath, teeth and claws and flame, calling any heroes out there that are brave. Or just insane! Black Rock Mountain, a Hearthstone adventure!
Come out, wherever you are.
Nuclear launch detected.
Drink, Hellscream. Claim your destiny. You will all be conquerors. And what, Gul'dan, must we give in return? Everything. Reject this gift. And did you bring these mongrels here? Just to watch you die? This was not our destiny. Times change. We will never be slaves! But we will be conquerors.
On va faire ça comme dans les livres. Va dire ça à Phoenix ou aux millions de gens que t'as massacrés.
아니야. 난 짐이 아니야.
没错，
dass ihr glaubt.
Blizzard's philosophy towards thinking globally, particularly with regard to localization, is the emphasis that we put on making sure that any player that sits before one of our games feel like it was designed especially for them, not that it was an afterthought after the original English was released.
We localize Starcraft in 11 languages, and that's German, Italian, Polish,
French, Castilian Spanish, Russian, Brazilian Portuguese, Latin American Spanish, Korean, traditional Chinese, then simplified Chinese. When we say localization, usually it involves cultural adaptation.
If you're, playing this game in Korean, it's gonna be in Korean from top to bottom. They're gonna look and sound like they're speaking Korean because they are speaking Korean. And we can go in and we can edit the text on the sign in the level. So if the level, we can actually go in there and make it say it in Korean, right there, or in Chinese or whatever.
We have a vast department of people all through the Asian Pacific regions, which are in our own internal offices, as well as in Europe, that are there every day working to make sure that the target language of these games is localized perfectly. The actors that we use, particularly for the speaking parts, are really quite well known in a lot of the regions, and we really think it drives home the player experience for everyone in the community.
Ja, okay. Entschuldige fürs Vorsagen. Ja.
Als Voice Director ist es folgendermaßen, dass man natürlich stark involviert ist in den Prozess, die Stimmen für Rollen zu finden, festzulegen. Das heißt, man ist in das Casting stark involviert, natürlich in Absprache mit dem Lokalisierungs- und Audioteam von Blizzard. Und dann ist es natürlich auch meine Hauptaufgabe, während der Aufnahmen darauf zu achten, dass die Aufnahmen einwandfrei durchgeführt werden, dass sie sauber sind. Und natürlich das Wichtigste ist, dass die Sprecher auch die Rollen gut verstanden haben.
Artanis, warte. Ich bin nicht dein Feind. Wir sollten das nicht weiter herausfordern.
Super.
Okay?
Ja,
super. Ja, weil manchmal, du springst ja in den Aufnahmen auch von einem Setting ins nächste und du kannst das als Sprecher gar nicht immer sofort parat haben, weil du ja dich vorwiegend um deine Szenen, in denen du eben auch betroffen und beteiligt bist, kümmerst. Und dann ist es natürlich wunderbar, wenn du einen Regisseur hast, der dir sagen kann, ja, jetzt ist die gerade da und dann kommen da gleich diese ganzen, was weiß ich, Untertanen, die du bewerkstelligen, wollte ich schon sagen, befehligen musst und so weiter und so fort. Und dann hast du zumindest schon mal eine Ahnung.
Je ne suis pas votre ennemi. Si je peux mettre une petite césure de douleur au milieu pour être synchro.
D'accord. Artanis, attendez! Alors, le jeu vidéo, la difficulté, c'est quand on a peu de données. Quand on n'a pas le scénario et qu'on ne connaît pas le personnage et qu'on entend juste un bout, la difficulté, c'est d'être créatif. Je suis venu chercher les Xel'Naga.
Super.
Donc, par exemple, sur ce travail-là, on avait beaucoup de données, donc c'est génial.
Ça, c'est un travail qui se fait à la base, au départ, sur la traduction. C'est le bureau, c'est Blizzard Europe qui s'occupe de toutes ces traductions, d'affiner, de trouver la quintessence du personnage. Sa façon de parler, déjà, on la voit dans la traduction. Et ensuite, on l'applique en studio. Expliquer aux comédiens, voilà, tu parles de cette façon, tu t'exprimes de cette façon, parce que, pour telle raison. Et le comédien, avec tous ces éléments, va s'amuser à créer la voix finale du personnage.
Eure Nervenstränge fesseln euch an seinen Willen.
Man kann jeden Satz anders betonen, er kriegt eine völlig neue Bedeutung. Ich weiß, dass hier ist schon eine gewisse Starre, denn der Text ist vorgegeben, die Figur ist vorgegeben und auch das, was zu tun ist im Text zu ändern, ganz schwer, weil da sitzen die vernünftigen Leute lange drüber, bis der Text so steht. Und deswegen habe ich auch da überhaupt keine Ideen mehr, einen Text zu verändern und verlasse mich erstmal drauf auf die Erfahrung des Regisseurs und natürlich auch, was mir mein Gegensprecher, der ja im Englischen stattfindet, was der mir vorgibt.
James Rayner. Ich bringe düstere Kunde.
I bring tidings of doom.
Zeratul.
La voix anglaise est une base définitive. Aucun ne pensait, non? Ou aucun pensait? Aucun ne pensait? Aucun ne pensait. Oui, mais aucun ne pensait que ça se finirait. Ben voilà, on a l'anglais et on doit se porter à peu près sur l'émotion qu'a exprimé le comédien anglais.
Go, Jim. Go.
然后你第一个走把那个疤稍微再拖一点，好吧？
好的。
就补一个这个走疤回来。
走吧 ，Jim。快走。
可以说因为英文原声的声音比较欧美化，应该说，我们中国的演员声音可能没有那么宽厚，但是我是尽量能够去贴合它，让自己的就是最宽度的音域能够呈现出来。那么在情感的表达上面也是这样子的，尽量能够表现得更加细腻，能够打动人心，这样。
阿托尼斯，等等，我不是你的敌人。
在这个角色当中，因为 Kerrigan 是一个非常复杂的一个角色，我也很高兴，就是能够在游戏当中有这样一个非常人性化的一个角色在里面，而且可以说是非常具有传奇色彩的，所以在演绎当中，我一定会保留很多原来的那些细腻情感的。那些比较细致的演绎，
除非 Mask 死了，否则就没什么我们。
네, 뭐 이런 식인데.
Jim, 어서.
제가 알기로는 이 스타크래프트 영어 성우분은 이제 배우인 걸로 알고 있어요. 저희는 이제 전문 성우이다 보니까. 그게 아마 이제 언어가 달라서이기도 하지만 저희가 들을 때는
Jim, are you on this frequency? Jim, are you out there? Jim, 내 말 듣고 있어? 거기 있는 거야?
조금 부드럽고 전체적으로 좀 부드럽고 이렇게 소프트한 느낌이라면 저의 경우에는 이제 캐리건일 때와 그다음에 칼날 여왕일 때 조금 느낌이라든가 음색을 좀 달리 갔어요. 그래서 캐리건일 때는 조금 더 인간적으로 뭐 대사 스피드도 보통으로 갔다면 칼날 여왕일 때는 훨씬 더 이렇게 느릿느릿 말하면서 여왕으로서의 어떤 여유 그리고 카리스마 이런 것들을 더 넣으려고 노력을 했는데
무슨 짓을 한 거야?
방법이 없었어.
그럼 피닉스는 당신이 학살한 수백만 명은
서양 사람들이 생각하는 그 외모에 어울리는 목소리랑 그다음에 우리나라 사람들이 흔히 생각하는 그 외모에 어울리는 목소리란 게 서로 개념이 좀 다르더라고요. 아마 나라 간의 문화 차이겠지만 그래서 그대로 가는 거는 그 톤을 그대로 간다는 거는 로컬라이제이션이라는 의미에서는 좀 약간 의미가 퇴색할 수 있겠다 싶어서 좀 다르게 가려고 해서 좀 했었고요.
자치령 세계가 함락되고 전초기지가 파괴되고
하지만 이제 우리나라 말로 이게 단순한 소리만 입히는 게 아니라 이 게임 자체를 한국화시키는 거기 때문에 거기에 우리나라 정서에 맞게 간다면은 뭐 어울리지 않을까 그렇게 일단은 생각을 했고요.
맨스크는 잊어. 제발 좀 잊으라고. 이젠 우리 둘만 생각하자고. Sie entwickeln sich. Das müsst ihr auch.
Je suis tout ce que tu as perdu.
Reprends-toi, chérie.
저는 가장 큰 칭찬 중에 하나가 영화 더빙이나 게임 더빙에 있어서 그 게임 정말 재밌더라. 그 영화 정말 재밌더라가 저한테 제일 큰 칭찬이거든요. 레이너 목소리가 좋더라. 혹은 레이너 그거야 들으니까 뭐 더빙이 잘 됐더라. 그거는 전체에는 부합되지 않는 거라고 생각을 해요. 그것이 다 녹아들어서 스타크래프트 2라는 게임 자체가 유저들에게 너무너무 재미있었다라고 하는 게 제가 생각하는 최고의 어떤 그 레벨 지점이기 때문에.
The swarm brought ruin to our world. Our proud people became refugees. And yet, they could not shatter our unity. For we are bound by the Kala, the sacred union of our every thought and emotion. Today, we retake our homeworld, and with it, our legacy.
I will always look back on Starcraft as the game where we really found our feet as storytellers, where words and art and sound and design all just kind of smashed together to create a very distinct expression of immersion.
Starcraft is such an amazing universe. It's been such a part of Blizzard for so many years.
Now it's just a matter of time of reflecting, taking a step back, recognizing what an amazing experience it's been and how many people it's touched.
Starcraft opened up us to the world and the world to us.
We're able to bring this community together that transcends age, gender, religious preference, country borders. That's really special and really powerful.
Artists in the company were really interested in drawing something other than fantasy at the time because they've been working on Warcraft 1 and then Warcraft 2, and they're like, hey, let's do something science fiction.
We weren't thinking about, hey, what can be super successful? We just wanted to make something that we would enjoy playing.
It was fun to begin to envision worlds and empires and alien species in conflict. It was a dream opportunity.
A lot of us just started doodling during lunch. People just started drawing all sorts of different things, and I remember Sam drawing some crazy characters without mouths and stuff like that, and it was kind of like these little moments of just inspiration.
We were working on the ideas for Starcraft, and it was either CES or E3 that was coming up. And we're like, well, we need something. And we're like, well, we don't have anything. So we just sort of took the structure that we had already made and just started building the preliminary races of like the Zerg. And we went to the show, and it looked like everyone said Warcraft in space.
Orcs in space.
Orcs in space.
Oh, Orcs in space. I know what this is. I'm like, no, this is gonna be completely unique characters and 3 races.
We got our asses kicked. I mean, you know, and that was the cool thing about Blizzard, right? And still today, is just, you know, anytime we see a challenge, we rise to it.
We had to go back and say, all right, what do we do to completely change the art style and everything about it to make it be its own game?
Monday morning, we had scrapped the complete game, had decided that we were gonna go in a totally different direction, rewrite the engine, and really start delving into the 3D aspect.
We had a guy named Dwayne Stinnett who did 3D, and he worked on this mech, and he just did this mech animation, right? Kind of just a proof of concept, like, hey, this might be cool. Samwise went in and kind of beefed up the mech and tricked it out, and then they showed this animation to everybody, and everybody said, okay, this is it. This could be the sci-fi RTS that we've been talking about.
Based on those experiments, I think we all realized pretty quickly that, like, yeah, this is the look for this game. This is what makes it distinct.
And somewhere in there is where I realized that all the new ideas for the design and how it could be different didn't mesh with what we already had. Your ideas are great, but we need 3 months to completely rewrite everything from scratch if you want to do all these ideas.
The legend says that those in power called upon Bob Fitch, and he sequestered himself from everybody and locked himself in a small office that still had windows and doors, and he could leave whenever he wanted. But he was locked in there for months at a time. His wife gave birth, and he was in there with the baby in a drawer, rocking it while he's programming with his left hand.
People were bringing me food at my desk, and no one was telling me to do this. I just wanted to do it because I wanted to have a great game.
Within a few months, all the old stuff was out and all the new stuff was in, and, you know, again, like when the art getting reborn, the engine getting reborn, that's the birth of Starcraft and Bob's kid.
So getting Starcraft to market was pretty arduous. It was easily the hardest crunch we had done up to that time.
There was a lot of balance that needed to be done. There were a lot of bugs, and at that time, we were the play testers.
But we were learning. We didn't really know what we were supposed to do, so we did a lot of just playing the game over and over again.
It got to a point where when I did go home and get some sleep, I was dreaming about playing Starcraft.
And every time we thought we were close to done, we discovered more things that we really wanted to do that really would make it the Starcraft it ended up being.
And we would say this to people about how we were progressing, because everybody was like, when are you going to ship this damn thing? And we're like, we're working constantly, 7 days a week.
Someone came up to me and said, hey, are you working on that Starcraft game? And I thought, yeah, this is the first time I had been recognized with a Blizzard shirt. And the guy, all he said was, you need to get back to work and finish that game for me. And I thought, holy cow, we're onto something here.
It took longer to cook than anything we had done before that time.
And back then, we didn't have the internet to do a quick patch every time you needed to do something. So it really did matter, but we were passionate about it, and we got their stuff done, you know? We worked really hard.
It was a madly different time, but it was fantastic.
I did not have a gray hair before Starcraft. After Starcraft, gray.
Oh, I remember when StarCraft 1 came out, and it's one of the best feelings.
We definitely believed that we had created something that was really special.
And I remember Chris Metzen in a big meeting basically saying we just finished the greatest RTS ever made. And we all agreed and sat there and got really drunk.
One of the coolest things is I went down to the QA area. You know, these guys have been testing the game around the clock for months. They were there playing the game. Wow, you guys are here playing the game. You guys could be home sleeping. That was pretty awesome.
The reception to Starcraft, almost right out of the gate, was tremendously validating. It was kind of a proof that, like, we're on the right track. This is how we should approach everything from here on out.
It was one of our first Game of the Years that Blizzard had as Blizzard.
We always look to do the best we can.
And we just hope that the fans appreciate it and the critics appreciate the game, but to actually see them come back and give those positive reviews and start seeing the outpour of support for the game, it was really awesome.
I knew it was going to be a great game, but I had no experience with what a great game means in terms of how many people start adoring it and changing their lives around it, getting tattoos of things from the game, and what that really means when you get that devotion and that following. What happened after StarCraft 1 is we essentially just started right in on Brood War because we wanted to release it fast, and so another crunch started. I got a little bit of time off. Got to spend a little bit of time with the new kid, right?
Brood War was so much more than an expansion, but it was really a whole new game. I mean, the amount of work that went into it, the amount of new content that was in there, the technical advancements that happened with that game.
It actually radically changed the way that you'd play the Terran, Protoss, and Zerg. It is actually what made StarCraft, StarCraft.
I picked up StarCraft 1 in, I think, 1999. I got my first computer ever. Came home and there was this manual that was filled with a ridiculous amount of story content and really cool art. And I ended up reading the manual for several hours first and getting kind of sucked into this crazy world.
StarCraft 1 meant a lot to me. It was a game that all my friends were playing in, I think it was high school at the time. Pretty much everyone gathered together. We were doing LAN parties, playing that thing just non-stop. And it was a game that, like, I grew really close to really quickly. It was the reason I came to Blizzard. It's a huge reason for why I'm on this team.
I was first introduced to StarCraft 1 in college when I was playing a lot of video games with my friends, but I noticed a lot of them were going to the computer labs playing StarCraft Brood War. And so that was my first introduction to it.
I think I was in high school when the game came out, and then I was playing it a lot. I used to go to PC rooms pretty often, like after school, almost every day. Except on Thursdays, because on Thursdays, that was the first televised esports event going on in Korea.
My first exposure to any of the professional stuff was seeing Korea and how popular it was there and watching them play, seeing videos of them where the fingers are moving beyond my capability of even doing my fingers right now with nothing happening, and yet they're making the game move at that speed. It was incredible.
Seeing him rain for the first time, like dodge a lurker shot, I'm like, you really can't do that, right? You can't do that. I remember like looking at programmers like, he shouldn't be able to do that, right?
Holy crap, we never tested for this. It's going to crash. There's going to be a problem with the UI. There's going to be a problem with the game in general because it was so light years beyond what we ever did in testing.
In Korea, they were showing StarCraft Brood War on television. The pro gamers were fully sponsored with awesome uniforms, and they had fangirls and fanboys holding up signs. It was insane.
Being able to see these gamers become superstars, this was their sport, this was their thing, and they were the best in the world. Esports was born in Korea, and it was born with StarCraft.
When I joined the team, StarCraft 2 was going to be a single game, and it was so important for us to get it right.
For the development of StarCraft 2, there were certain expectations, and those were huge expectations to meet. But there was also, how are we going to make it different and better?
We knew that the multiplayer was going to be very conservative in its approach. There was going to be a siege tank, right? There was going to be a Marine, there was going to be a Zealot. This was going to be this game. A lot of players were looking for something more from us as well, and so we felt like the campaign would be an area where we could do more.
We knew that we wanted to keep Jim Raynor, Sarah Kerrigan, a lot of the classic characters from the first game, because people who weren't necessarily the super multiplayer esports fans, they were the single-player campaign fans. They're just as ravenous on this game as the multiplayer fans. You know, they want to know what's happening next, so we continued the storyline.
Chris Metzen in particular, he wanted to push the storytelling to a new level, something that no other game has done. It was a big undertaking.
Next thing I know, I'm sitting in script meetings where we're looking at big old thick scripts, and we're like, wow, we have completely jumped into the deep end of the pool. But we were super excited, and now we had 2 weapons to tell stories, the pre-render and then the real time, and this really cool interweaving of big story moments and these smaller moments that were just as critical.
All in a day's work, General. We were looking at a game that was probably 70 to 80 missions. And we didn't want to cut it for the story, because we liked the story that we were telling. And we didn't want to cut it for the choices you get in the campaign. And so we're looking at this and going, well, what are we going to do? We can't do 80 missions and not be done before probably 2015.
So we made the decision to cut it into 3. And, it was kind of this, oh God, what have we done, right? Like, now we really can do this, but we gotta deliver on it.
I was at the reveal of Starcraft 2 at the Worldwide Invitational in Seoul, and we were very proud of Starcraft 2. We're very proud of what we had built, but you just, at some level, at some artistic level, you just didn't know, would people respond to it? I remember sitting in that kind of Olympic stadium.
This was a massive Olympic arena, and it was packed to the gills with people.
The energy was really intense, and it was bone quiet in the place as they played that trailer we had developed, the Building a Better Marine.
My heart's racing because I'm hoping that the piece is going to play well and everyone's going to understand it and enjoy it.
And at the end he says, well, hell, it's about time. Of course, in that stadium, that line played in Korean.
드디어 올 것이 왔군.
The crowd went absolutely nuts. The whole audience, you just sounded like a roar.
This thunder rolled from the back of this auditorium all the way down. It was one of those great moments I will always remember. One of the very most special moments in my career so far.
The coolest thing about it was we were finally able to say the word StarCraft 2.
Are you ready for Starcraft 2?
I think there was a tremendous amount of excitement in general at the company that we were finally getting StarCraft 2 out. In a way, it showed how we had found balance as a company.
StarCraft 2 is one of the best things we've ever done, and I think from a sequel perspective, it's one of the best sequels I think that's ever been made, and probably the best one we've made.
So the goals for Heart of the Swarm were to really continue that story that we started in Wings of Liberty and tell it from the Zerg perspective, or more so, the Kerrigan perspective.
I never gave up on you, Sarah. Don't you give up on us!
In addition to being the second chapter in the StarCraft storyline focused on the Zerg, I think that Swarm was an opportunity to really look at game balance and address some of the issues that had come up and become apparent with Wings of Liberty.
We had to kind of stop after Wings of Liberty and think about, okay, what is the Zerg perspective on this? How are we going to make it so it's not just, the old game with a Zerg skin on it? That's the last thing we wanted to do. So I think we kind of stripped everything down and we rebuilt it back up from that Zerg point of view.
We wanted people to experience what it's like to play the monsters, to be the monster.
We really wanted to focus it down to Kerrigan's vengeance, to her bringing the swarm together, to finding new and interesting resources, and sort of building this custom-made swarm which you could just shove down Arturis's throat.
You made us all into monsters.
We knew the world, we knew the style, we knew the characters, we knew the units and races. We were just continuing the story. We were at home and familiar, and we were able to just, blaze forward and got the game done in a fraction of the time that it took to do Wings.
Game 3 pulls out the clutch victory. DRG breaks the curse. He is overwhelmed with excitement. Those hallucinated void rays almost.
Going into the development for Heart of the Swarm, we knew we had a game that was heavy into esports, so there was a big drive to bring a refreshed experience around the esports scene. So that was new units for multiplayer for all of our races, some new diversity and new strategies that could be utilized through those units.
I think the legacy of the whole StarCraft franchise in general, really the strongest point is going to be the esports aspect, the multiplayer aspect, the competitive nature. You and a friend going head to head with these aliens and cool robots and mechs and everything. People love that. It's so geeky.
I read somewhere online saying StarCraft 2 is this generation's chess, but I think it's a little more than that because it's like chess in terms of the strategy component, but how fast you make those strategic decisions also come into play. So I think it's those two things that made it kind of take off as a esport.
I think the only way you can really have a esport for a game is if you have a community that loves it and celebrates it. And so we've been very fortunate to have such an amazing esports community. And I think it's really up to them on how long esports will continue for StarCraft.
The esports community is thriving right now, and so we're trying to give them as much support as possible with this last expansion.
The main goal of Legacy of the Void is this is our final chapter of StarCraft 2. The secondary goal was to make sure that the Protoss had their own unique, awesome campaign.
The fact that Legacy is ending with the Protoss is so fitting because you look at this ancient race and what they embody, and so much of it started there with them, and now everything is coming back full circle.
It was very important to us to make sure that the Protoss campaign felt like a Protoss campaign, and that Protoss players in no way felt that they had been cheated in their campaign by having to handle these heavy elements that have been in the game since Wings of Liberty. Raynor, Kerrigan, where all that stuff is going is a very important element of StarCraft 2. In fact, it's at the core.
Which is why we wanted to have the epilogue missions, because we wanted Protoss to have their ending, and then the final ending, wrapping up all the Terran, Protoss, and Zerg together to complete their journey.
We thought about how to end the trilogy and thought long and hard about the relationship with her and Jim, and there's this cool, quaint little moment with Jim back at the bar, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, maybe it's a dream, maybe it's not, but this girl walks into the bar, right?
You about ready to get out of here, cowboy?
Hell, it's about time.
What does the future have in store for StarCraft? That's ironic. For my money, there's 1,000 stories to tell.
Kapriluk sector is a big place.
There's so much to explore. And not only that, but we have a passionate player base that wants more.
We'll take a breather, and next thing you know, we'll be on the carpet drawing again, and the cycle will start again, and all of a sudden we'll be off in the stars.
The story of StarCraft goes on in so many ways, and I'd love for us as developers to be there in whatever capacity we can. We will certainly be playing with you, at the very least, but I certainly think that, you know, balance changes, map changes, all of that stuff we can keep doing for many, many years to come.
I think StarCraft's really where we found our voice and found our confidence.
It's a franchise that I'm very proud to have been part of.
During the development process and all the hours that we spent playing together in the office, it became and still is my favorite game of all time.
I think StarCraft to me is what started it all. It is the heart of esports for me, and it will always be very near and dear to my heart.
I loved it. I really came to Blizzard just to work on StarCraft 2, so it's been like a dream.
Absolutely. Kind of a piece of me is in that game.
It is like a giant family of people working together, people that are writing code, people that are doing art, and then people that are playing, loving, giving the feedback that we take in, and then create the next evolution of the game. For me to have these great people working on this as comrades in arms is awesome, and it extends out to the community playing the game as well.
Basically what I'm doing right now is I'm going in and I'm making sure that all of our pathing edges are nice and smooth so that players don't get caught up on some of the rough edges here. It's one of the many monotonous tasks that a video game developer must learn to endure.
So this is the tech demo for the Starcraft mod. It all works just like the game, controls just like the game. And we're getting an error message, but we're gonna ignore that.
Modding is basically taking our games, our engine, and creating something new using those tools. A modified experience.
Opening up the editor, making your own map, and putting new rules to the game. It could be completely new.
You're basically taking the tools that the developers use to create their own AAA titles and using them for something for yourself or for the community, which is a pretty awesome experience.
Round 1, go!
Blizzard has a long and rich history with supporting community developers, mod makers, people who can take our tool set and make their own thing out of it.
Really early on in our real-time strategy game development, we made the decision to actually expose our tools, the same tools that we use to create our maps and our campaign, to our community and allow them to play around with the game and the engine and create new and unique things on their own.
One of the things that we saw with Warcraft 2 and the map editor that we delivered was people were able to create and put together map packs, and so the most dedicated Warcraft 2 fan may have actually bought boxed map packs from third parties in stores.
That's when I made it a mission to make it more moddable. When we were doing Warcraft 3, I went in to all of my engineers and I said, we want to look at this as moddable as one of the main things that we do.
We've just been amazed at the creativity and talent that exists out there in the community.
Inside Starcraft 2, you can make a lot of different types of games. We did everything we can to enable our community to really go crazy. We give them all of the tools that we use.
I watched a trailer for a third-person, over-the-shoulder shooter.
We have tug-of-war games, general RTS games, puzzle games. We even have, like, party games.
It's not just a map editor anymore. It is a platform for content creation.
What's going on? Your camera just got totally jacked up?
Yes.
Awesome, our first bug. My name is Ryan Winzen, and I'm the creative developer on Starcraft Universe.
Alert. Under attack by enemy capital ship.
Starcraft Universe is a voyage role-playing game where you're actually able to take a lot of the gameplay elements of an action RPG like World of Warcraft or Diablo and combine that with the Starcraft setting. But you're going to be able to command a ship in Starcraft Universe and fly to different planets and maintain your ship while it's under assault from enemy factions, Zerg, Terran, Protoss.
Communications repaired.
I just want it to be like this really epic voyage. When it's all said and done, I think it'll probably be close to 30 hours of gameplay. When I first got the StarCraft 2 editor, I noticed that there was capability that allowed you to control the camera in a third-person environment. And I quickly got the idea. I was like, you know, a lot of people have wanted to see a StarCraft-based MMO. I've thought about it since back in the day. So I just started prototyping, you know, messing around with the editor and putting some things together, and I wanted to get some feedback on what I was doing, and I guess it spread through YouTube like wildfire. We got like 200,000 hits in like 5 or 10 days. We put up a PTR to let people into the game to experience the game mechanics, all the abilities, the progression, a lot of the enemy AI. From there, we were able to work out a whole host of technical issues, balance issues, and it really helped us to build the end game.
Despite a successful test release and overwhelming praise from the public, however, Upheaval found itself depleted of minerals and Vespene gas.
We were working on it for probably about 3.5 years. We were pretty much at a point where if we didn't get funding for it, we knew we were never going to have the time to finish it. So then we decided to go for Kickstarter and see what happened. With your contributions, we'll be able to eliminate a lot of the challenges of our everyday lives and focus just on creating Starcraft Universe. It was a nerve-wracking experience, and fortunately we were able to pull through and get the game funded, and now it's going to happen.
Modding, it trains you to be a game designer. All of the things you're doing as a modder, we're doing as game developers. We're building something, and you gotta make it clear so players can understand what you expect of them when they play your game, and you've gotta make it polished, and you've gotta fix your bugs. You gotta do all the things we're doing.
It's actually a great way for us to find new talent out there. If somebody comes to us and says, hey, I wanna work at Blizzard, I wanna be a game designer. It's like, okay, well, what have you done? And they show up with their own mods that they've created using our tools. That looks great on our resume.
If I've played your mod and it's amazing, why wouldn't we want to hire you?
My name is Ryan Shooter. I'm an assistant technical designer for Starcraft. Before working at Blizzard, I created a mod called GameHeart. GameHeart, what it is specifically, is it's designed to enhance the spectator experience of the game for tournaments. The idea being that the way we were watching people play the game before is the same way that you see it as a player. And if you watch football, you don't watch it from the player's perspective. That might be cool to see every now and then, but for the most part, you want to see the overview of like kind of what's happening and get the bigger picture. So the idea was to provide people with that bigger picture. So we have things like when upgrades complete, a little pop-up will tell you like 15-second countdown, so everyone can see that it's about to finish. We allowed the observer to zoom out much further than they could before, which is actually now a default feature in StarCraft. And so we just added tool after tool after tool, and slowly tournaments started picking up until finally groups like DreamHack and GSL and those groups were picking it up. So that's when Blizzard decided to bring me on contract to make an official version that we could QA and then actually use in the WCS events.
But now his natural's open. Bomber's gonna stim in. Tanks are sieging up, so he cleans up the forces inside the main of his base, but his natural tanks going down left and right now. Bomber has sieged.
I was actually really surprised because they kept taking things out of GameHeart and just going, well, let's just make this an official feature. And whenever I wanted to do something, and this took me a little while I was on contract to get used to, I could literally just walk over to one of my coworkers and be like, hey, can we do this? And he'll be like, yeah, I've got time to program that today, you know? And so it like completely changes what the possibilities are. I think they decided they wanted to have someone on the UI team that focused on implementation. So I got very lucky with the attention that GameHeart got, because I think it created this opportunity for me. They just really like to see that you are creating something and doing something all the time.
You do not at all need to be a programmer to mod in the StarCraft 2 editor.
The technical artists on the SC2 team actually made the 3ds Max art tools and plugins and scripts available to allow modders to make all their own art, drop it in the game, and let other people play it on the arcade.
My name's Jonathan Burton of Carbot Animations, and we make StarCraft parody cartoons on YouTube. There was a lot of comments actually on each episode. Oh, I'd love to see this in the game and play these characters in the game. And so we thought to ourselves, like, is this possible? Can we create a 2D game in a 3D engine and have it playable in the StarCraft arcade? And after a little testing, we found out that we can do it. So here we got the sprites of the StarCraft's mod, and this is the Zerg, the kind of cute, adorable pets, if you will. Except this guy here, he's a little more hardcore than that. You can see how each direction has its own animation, its own attack animation, run, idle animation, and even death. My part of the job is the overall direction of the mod, where it's going and what we want in the final product. Anything that creates that atmosphere or that personality so that when you're playing the game, it doesn't just feel like a reskinned version of StarCraft, it feels like you're playing StarCrafts. If you watch this idle animation for a bit, there he goes, he's eating a sandwich. So that's nice. Now some chips. Balance out the sandwich. We want to make each unit be able to dance. We'll also have an ability that every unit can use within the first probably about 5 or 6 minutes of the game where they're able to just throw some cheese. Just cheese them. I think we're going to change it to one big cheese, block of cheese, but right now it's multiple cheese. It doesn't do anything. It's just purely a cosmetic feature that you can just annoy your opponent and shower them with cheese as you can and rush them. I've always wanted to like create a game, so this is something it's a little step towards that. It's not like my own game, but it's a little step towards that, and we're able to create all the art, which is a really awesome experience because now I can appreciate all the little things that go into creating a game. The little rock over there, a little tree. People made that, and now I have to.
People ask about the future of StarCraft 2, which I hope is a very long and thriving future, but I think a part of that future is the mod community.
I think that modding is showing that it's actually a great resource for finding new ideas and finding new things that have massive potential for success.
You don't understand what people are going to create with it, and you don't understand how powerful it is until they start creating things. And only after they start creating amazing things is the level of capability revealed.
I feel like every week we're finding a new mod that we pass around emails internally and we say, how in the world is someone doing this? And if you talk to any of the developers, they're going to say the exact same thing, that they're inspired by what the community does with the tools that we give them. And it's really, really exciting to see.
Starcraft has a long legacy. It's a game that really defined Blizzard as a global game developer. It speaks to so many across the world. And now, as we work on Legacy of the Void, we're seeing the final evolution, not just of these characters and these races, but also of the game design, the cinematics, and certainly the music.
My name's Glenn Stafford. I'm a senior composer here at Blizzard. I've been here since 1993. I came on as a contractor for about a week, and then they hired me on as the first Blizzard sound guy, although we weren't Blizzard yet. Yeah. I want to say late 95, early 96 is when we started talking about StarCraft. As it shaped up, we wanted to have a distinct sound for all three of those races. Kind of a space cowboy country approach to the Terrans, contrasting with this big ethereal sound for the Protoss with choirs and stuff. The Zerg, we took a step further with using an outside contractor, at the time Derek Duke, to create this really creepy electronic vibe.
Back in the 90s, I was doing the occasional PlayStation games, a lot of CD-ROM games, edutainment, some work on cartoons. I'd come across a ad for music for Blizzard Entertainment, and I was a big fan of their stuff. They wanted some sounds and some music outside the Blizzard wheelhouse. You know, they were looking for those sort of interesting textures, and that was something that I was definitely into and am still really, you know, super into. So there, that's instant drama. I don't think Jason came on board till a couple years after that.
StarCraft 1 was the first game I ever worked on at Blizzard. It was during the last 9 months of the game, so everything was really on fire at that time. When I came on, there was still some Protoss music left to be done, so I got to kind of join in when we wrote what's called, not that interestingly, Protoss 3. It was like the third of the long-playing Protoss tracks in StarCraft 1. At the time, they didn't have the massive orchestral libraries that they do today, so we didn't even know what we were missing. I mean, there wasn't such a thing as saying, you're going to make this gigantic orchestral sound with only electronics.
I know I was just crazy just with my samplers and really big into my processing boxes even back then, using outboard gear and just running through very detailed signal processing chains to get sort of new sounds. It was a bit more of a complicated process to achieve the production effects that now happen, in the box with plugins and things now. So we start with the darkness. And then bring in some bugs, right? So 20 years ago, that would have been a full day's work.
Listening to the stuff today, those are great sounds, right? But man, it's like nothing compares to recording with a full orchestra.
Hell, it's about time.
As we ramped up for StarCraft 2 development for Wings of Liberty, the Terran-focused campaign, we had a whole kind of wide range of instrumentation, guitar heavy, even more guitar heavy than the original. I did blend that with samples as well to fill it out, and also to kind of preserve a little bit of a retro legacy feel. Since Derek Duke had originally composed the StarCraft 1 Zerg music, we continued that relationship and we collaborated on some weird electronic sounds, took that and evolved it to the next level with, live orchestra instruments.
We pay attention to things like those sonic signatures of the hi-hats of the Zerg are always kind of like this kind of a sound. There's certain things that are always going to be there, and that's, I think, what's going to speak to the fans.
Jason came on during Heart of the Swarm. Towards the end,
I got to have my one little foot in the door on Heart of the Swarm as far as writing music on that one track. It's really a cool full circle moment for me because, you know, starting back with Glenn during the tail end of Starcraft 1 development, where I got to contribute to the Protoss music, now we're at this third installment in this epic trilogy, and it's all about the Protoss. And so it's wonderful to be able to flesh out a lot of the ideas we started way back then and kind of see where they go and mature into these full-fledged themes. Glenn, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, let's do it. Today, Glenn and I are working together. I'm here in my office with my setup, and Glenn is down the hall with his setup. We're working on a section that is taking a classic Protoss theme all the way back from when we worked on StarCraft 1. We're gonna take it and update it by giving it a military urgency so that it'll be appropriate for the Void's preparation for their kind of final stand. The software program we use has an online collaboration technology. It doesn't take long. I mean, in a matter of just a few hours, we can have a queue up and going that sounds, you know, quite polished. So this is the classic Protoss theme. So I've got my part now, and I'm going to post it so that Glenn can see it. All right, Glenn. The piano sketch is coming to you.
Yeah, looks good. The riff at the end, the quick thing, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That thing would sound awesome on short strings in the beginning, don't you think?
But yeah, it'll have to be cool all the way through, I think. Nice. From one section to another, you know, at some point, I'm kind of leading the charge and he's helping me develop the idea. And at another moment, maybe he's leading the charge and I'm helping develop his idea. I don't worry about getting like writer's block at all. It's like impossible. Go. Nice. So this is the sketch. Next, I'll go over and work with my collaborator, Mike Patty, in Los Angeles, and we'll combine it with a lot of other music and go on to this next phase where we open up the giant template and begin to flesh these things out in preparation for going to the orchestrator. Why don't you go ahead and start that one thing that the appropriate name, Void Action 3, the action cue there. Mike I've known for a little while.
So something that has like kind of this minor, major tension to it.
I originally contacted him because he had some really cool YouTube videos that would show his process. And he had this great, what we call an orchestral template. It's basically, you know, all electronic, but it's a way to simulate the sound of an orchestra. And we all deal with this issue.
Here's my template. I've got the strings at top, and then I've got strings, brass, and the woodwinds, and then like keys, harp, choir, and then percussion grouped in track folders. It was really cool. I got this email randomly from Jason. He's like, "Hey, I'm Jason Hayes. I'm a composer from. I know who you are. Like, oh my gosh, you're the StarCraft guy, you know." And you know, he's like, "Hey, I need some help with my template." And I was like, "I'll be right there. Whatever you need. You know." So. So that'll be like sort of the long strings, and we have short string. You know,
short strings can be a great, quick way to get the feeling of, you know, here's the string section going in full adrenaline action mode.
As a general idea, and then I'll record it in, and this is what it ends up sounding like.
just play the whole thing so you have it.
Yeah. You know what's so nice about that also? It's like right there on one instrument, Mike can play that in. You know exactly what he's going for. And just the basic first steps of writing, a big patch like this with the entire range of strings, it's great for writing. Because what you played there totally suggests an attitude and a feeling for the cue, right? The first time you see the Spear of Adun, to me, that was really important for us to hit because, you know, you have this amazing ship and it represents the highest ideals of what Protoss, you know, the Protoss race can be. It's beautiful and it's inspiring, it's aspirational, and yeah, and it feels almost like, you know, it's like a religious experience. You're like, oh, here it is. At the beginning of the cinematic, they really are in trouble. And so it's a very sad tone, a very, very, you know, pensive, sad tone at the beginning. But, you know, when you say there's still hope, and we do play it pretty strong.
It was really fun to score that moment because, you know, it's really hard. You got to restrict yourself and you want to stay small for a long time. But then every once in a while, you got to, like, let loose.
Game development's going on like a freight train that doesn't stop, and it's all happening at the same time. The designers are working on their missions and the story arc and the realization of the moment to moment as we're trying to write music. There's also this huge effort going on in the cinematics department. And Neil Acree has been working with us on the music for those simultaneously while we work on the end game.
The function of the cinematics is to create this very impactful short moment that happens after a certain amount of gameplay. Though we do try to create, you know, dynamic arcs and have it be a cohesive story, they oftentimes we're you know, trying to make a lot happen in a short period of time and have it be very impactful. A lot of times we go in with a specific idea in mind, try to find a way to tie all the stories together in a cohesive way. And sometimes we'll end up finding something that does that, but not in the way we thought it would. In this particular case, there was kind of a heroic theme that happened when Zeratul confronted Amon, who was acting through Artanis. I end up taking that theme and giving it to Artanis later on as Artanis picks up the gauntlet and kind of takes on Zeratul's mission. And that theme kind of then became sort of a heroic theme for Artanis that had originally been Zeratul's moment.
Forgive me.
The Protoss are constantly in communication through the Kala, so we wanted to find a musical way to demonstrate that. And for that, we used choir.
It used to be that if we had vocals in our games, it would be, you know, me singing in a vocal booth and Glenn singing in a vocal booth. And we'd record ourselves singing this thing like 20 times, and we're not even good singers. It's pretty cool, the magic you can create doing that technique. But again, compared to a big group of professional singers, the Protoss deserve a real choir.
We start with 32 voices, and we have them double track and triple track. By the end, it sounds like at least 96 players. It's all about making a bigger sound, and a space like this with the acoustics, you know, it's the best place to do it.
I'm extremely excited for the players to hear it. You know, we've been working on it for months now, and to see all that get wrapped up is such a satisfying experience. I'm really honored to be a part of it.
So at this point, we've got a lot of elements. Obviously, full symphony orchestra, choir, and we're gonna be taking all that stuff back in the studio, and it'll be almost like a playground where we take all these elements and begin the final mix. And we really hope when it's all said and done, we've captured something that's gonna be a wonderful, dramatic musical score that will give the players the most awesome conclusion to this trilogy.
Hello everyone, I'm Ben Dye from the Blizzard Cinematic team, and I'm the director for Legacy of the Void Intro Cinematics. For the behind the scene featurette, we're going to watch the cinematic, pause along the way, and talk about some of the work that goes into it. Some of the artists on the team, including myself, will hopefully give you an insight in some of the challenges we faced during the production. Let's check it out. Ire is the Protoss home planet. It used to be green and very lush, but since Zerg's been occupying it for quite some time, it become a lot more desolate and war-torn. The early version of the cinematic, we had a couple of different locations, a Nexus, a Warp Gate, but we finally decided on the battleship graveyard concept because it just really speaks to what had happened to this planet. We thought about covering the whole entire landscape in Zerg Creep at one point, but we shy away from the idea in favor of the more Icelandic, war-torn, rocky, volcanic look that we see in the cinematic now.
Our proud people became refugees. And yet, they could not shatter.
Here's our cast of heroes. We have a Probe, 3 Zealots, and 2 Templars. The Templars are a huge challenge for us because the complexity of his design. He has a very big headdress. On top of that, there's a collar around his neck, and all of these armors are draped in cloth, so we have to pay special attention to them when we do the cloth simulations. The Zealot in the middle is the captain. I wrote a little bit of backstory for him. He's a little bit older than the rest of the team. He has a scar on his face from the previous battle. He's like a veteran. The Zealot design goes all the way back to Starcraft 1. It's been updated since then through many iterations on the in-game model and also from our cinematics. He still had the dreads and obviously the side blades as well.
When we saw the storyboard for this shot, we knew that'd be a big challenge for the entire team. Everybody would have to be involved, and just the coordination from each department would have to be very on point. The idea of doing the shot in slow motion was from director Ben Dye, who wanted the audience to really grasp the color effects traveling from one ponytail to another. The main drawback with doing a shot in slow motion like this is that every single element will have to be calculated 4 times as much as a usual shot. Characters, environment, piece of debris, rocks, any sort of effects such as the Psy blades or the color effects traveling down the ponytail, every single element will have to be calculated 4 times as much as a regular shot.
During production, sometimes we use models from previous cinematics to save on time and budget. The first appearance of this model was in Build a Better Marine, and then we featured him again in Kerrigan's Dream. In order to reuse this model for the Protoss cinematic, we remodeled him to give him a little bit more pronounced muscles, and then we also had to retexture him again to fit in our new pipeline.
For
For the initial concept of the probe, before we started modeling, we went through a lot of iterations. The initial design was looking way too Terran-like, but with a lot of 2D and 3D exploration and concepting, we ended up with a really cool sports bike feel, which I think a lot of Protoss fans would actually appreciate. Creating the 3D model was a fun challenge, especially with all the moving parts and the opportunity to noodle out some of the exposed mechanical detail inside.
These Baneling destruction shots were really fun for me personally because I got to experiment with some new FEM-based techniques for breaking apart the Baneling's body. But obviously, the bulk of the shot's impact comes from this nice goopy acid that I made using a flip simulation technique. Behind that, you can see that the Baneling is smashing into this cool procedurally generated shield that Sushi made, and that just really ties the shot together.
The effects team worked on 3 important moments where characters appear from nowhere or disappear into nothing. These were the Zealot warping, the Templars merging, and the Archon formation. One of the challenges of these effects was to create a robust procedural system in which we could animate the revealing of the character's surface. With this procedural system, we were able to iterate over many versions of the effects to address art direction. For this Templar merge effect, the director wanted to give it a painful feeling as the characters were eroded, torn apart, and sucked into a point in space. Using the procedural system, we iterated through many versions to achieve the best timing and speed for propagation of the Templar's erosion.
Here's our Archon. He was a little bit unique compared to the other assets because he had to be really big and then he had a lot of effects involved. His scale had to be big enough so that he could actually fight with the Ultralisk, but we couldn't make him too big or it wouldn't look realistic coming out of the 2 Templars. To make this scale kind of more believable, when we designed him, we had to make sure that there was these larger surfaces that you could read from a distance. But then when you get up close, there were these tiny details that would show up, making it actually look that much bigger.
The ultimate showdown between Archon and the Ultralisk needs to feel really epic. We went through a lot of different versions of this fight. It evolved throughout the production from storyboards all the way to effects and lighting. Previs was really the key to help figure out how this fight goes down in 3D space.
So this time, we had the chance to feature a Protoss pylons from nice and up close, which is one of my favorite assets. One of the main challenges in designing the pylon was we had to give it a fairly believable sense of weight and mass because the asset is fairly big. As a matter of fact, it was our 3rd largest asset in the show, right behind the Protoss carrier and the Archon. To give it a nice sense of wear and tear on its finish, a burnt metal look was developed and applied on top of the whole pylon.
Today, we retake our homeworld.
Personally, I'm a big fan of Protoss. I want to create a cinematic that reflects the playing style of this race. One of the most widely used strategy in multiplayer games for Protoss is called Proxy Pylon. The idea is to create a pylon behind enemy lines. Once you build it, you can warp in all your units and take your enemy by surprise. That was the base inspiration for our cinematic.
And with it, our legacy.
I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who worked on this project. I hope you enjoy watching this behind the scenes special, and I'll see you on BattleNet.
My name is Jonathan Burton, and I don't know. How do I introduce myself? Hold on. My name is Jonathan Burton, and we are at the studio of Carbot Animations. I'm the animator and the main creator behind Starcraft. I've been working on Starcrafts for almost 3 years. I work with my 2 brothers and my wife, so we're one big happy family, kinda.
Remember when I made you this?
This is actually how she works half the time. I was in a 4-year animation course, just finished my first year. Me and my wife were picking tomatoes at a farm, so that was our job. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to have another job that just a minimum wage kind of thing. I want to further my career with my next job. And so I told myself I'm gonna go with YouTube, and I am going to make a living from YouTube. I chose Starcraft to start just because that was the game I was playing a lot, and I love the competitiveness of the game.
He came up to me with a sketchbook and he said, "What do you think of these designs?" And he would like show me the designs of, like, I saw the Ultralisk, I saw the Mutalisk, I saw all these other characters simplified, and I hadn't really seen anything like it before. It was really cute, a lot of personality with every single unit.
I remember him starting to do it, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just trying this out." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And I didn't really think anything of it.
I made episode 1, 2, and 3. That was all kind of on my own. I was just kind of thinking of the idea and thinking, yeah, this might be a good idea to do on YouTube. When I released the first episode, probably the 6th or 7th comment was, "This is complete and utter crap." And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll just do like 2 more and that's it.
None shall stand.
It was the 2nd episode. Blizzard messaged me on YouTube, and I was like, well, someone's trying to scam me or something.
Kevin Johnson, the community manager at the time, was like, "We really like your stuff. Like, we want to promote you."
And so I was like, who is this? This isn't Blizzard. This is lies. And I found it was.
He called me the one day and he said, "Andrew, you are not going to believe this. Blizzard has just got in contact with me. They love the cartoons." And I was like, holy crap.
I asked my friend who has their own YouTube channel. They have a business off it. When I first started, I'm like, what should be my goal for subscribers? And they're like, oh, well, 1,000 would be good. And I was like, okay, I'll strive for 1,000. By the end of the first month, we got 25,000.
And then it just literally just kept going up, and we were like, holy cow, like, what's going on?
Now we're sitting at about 500,000.
Seeing like all these people love my brother's animations, love my brother's and my own humor. It was amazing to see like what influence my brother had on this community. It was crazy.
We had this one contest of people making StarCraft stuff to get part of the Swarm beta keys. And some people made like these, like in Minecraft, these massive structures or like these cakes.
He just kind of threw his idea out there, just randomly, 1 in a million chance, but it happened.
We are reaching the end of StarCraft Season 3. There wasn't really a story in the beginning. Like, the episode's still connected in the beginning, but it was just like a regular StarCraft match. Then Season 2 was Heart of the Swarm. I even was able to start with the cinematic trailer, which is cool. then season 3 was the mirror matches. So the Infestor made his own red team. There's also an overall story plot that people, if they dig deep enough, they'll notice, and little Easter eggs that people who are watching like to pick up and comment on. Inspiration of the style was that I knew I wanted frame-by-frame animation, so the characters need to be simple, strong shapes, but not a lot of detail. And as soon as you looked at it, you knew that, oh yeah, that's a Marine. There's no dialogue, really, so there's no language barrier.
Kind of like old cartoon style, where there was no dialogue, it was just action.
I wanted the character and the personality to really show. And so I guess with each race, there's a bit of a theme.
The Zerg, a lot of people look at them as pets, like not just animals, but like pets specifically.
They're animals, but cute animals like puppies or kittens. They're devastating because they'll kill you.
And then Terran, they're just children with guns and toys.
It's all fun and games to them. But with the Protoss, this is serious. The Protoss are serious about what they're doing, and they try really hard.
Do not make me.
The Zealot, actually, he's kind of become a main character. I used to rage a lot in Starcraft, and so my frustrations were poured into the Zealot.
How peaceful it must be for you.
Well, I remember patches came about in episode 4, I believe. It was called Zerg BM, Bad Manners. And from that point on, he had a patch on his butt. And then the community called him Patches.
The Zergling that took the bite out of Patches, he's still around. Every so often he coughs off a piece of that suit. I don't know if people have noticed that.
As soon as I started having reoccurring characters and stuff like that, that story continued to flush out more and more. And each season introduces a new map. So we kind of progress with maps, we progress with stories and characters.
Who called in the fleet? The end has come. Let us finish this. It's beautiful.
The quality has gone up for sure since episode 1. That was a couple reasons. One of them was because I learned how to use the program better, which helps. Another reason was because I was still going to school at the time, and now that it is my full-time job, I'm able to spend a little more time on it. There's also my brothers, Sam and Andrew.
Before all this happened, we always wanted to have something like this together. And so when all this started, I thought this was like a first step in the direction of what we wanted in the future. It took quite a long time to find out what my role should be. I did like one Starcraft episode, and then eventually after about a year, we kind of went World of Warcraft.
So it was about a year after that when my brother started to see some use for me. And he thought I could do the audio labor. I was like, great, I would love to be a part of this.
Damn.
Look, someone donated $6 to you. Last year, in December, I quit my job. And then I just started doing like the business side of things. Because if you know a job, then you can't do that stuff.
That's our team, and it's all families, which is awesome because that's where a lot of my creative energy and my enthusiasm came from, was being able to play these games with my brothers.
Oh, crap!
See, that's better.
The main thing that I think works as this company is because we all have synergy. Especially the three brothers, where they'll talk about memories of when they played like Starcraft or Diablo, and then they just put it to life in the animations.
It's great to be a part of every cartoon, to pitch ideas and to work with them to make hilarious cartoons.
It's kind of small in terms of like we're only 4 people, but it's big in terms of like the people that love it, you know, the community and the audience, you know, and the popularity of it.
We create these cartoons because we love doing it, and we love Blizzard games. I am part of the community, and I wanted to do something for StarCraft. It's really given me direction before I couldn't get anything done. And now I'm like, I was practically running a business all by myself for a while there, and now we're up to 4 people, and that's so cool. That's so cool to say that, yeah, you kind of built this up from the ground, and that it's been supported by so many different people. I think it's awesome.
The swarm brought ruin to our world. Our proud people became refugees. And yet, they could not shatter our unity. For we are bound by the Kala, the sacred union of our every thought and emotion. Today, we retake our homeworld, and with it, our legacy. Templar. At long last, we stand at the threshold of destiny. For today, we will restore the glory of our legacy. Today, we will retake what we have lost and reclaim our homeworld. And may the Kala's light guide us.
The invasion fleet stands ready. We await only your command, Hierarch.
You must halt this invasion at once. Zeratul.
Templar! Arrest this traitor!
No! We will hear him out. The End War has come. Amon, the Dark One, has returned.
This heretic cannot be trusted.
This invasion is a distraction from the true battle ahead. Amon's fury will engulf the entire galaxy.
Do not forget that it was his interference that brought ruin to Ire.
And that burden weighs heavily upon me. Artanis, I have found a way to stand against the coming darkness. You must believe me. We have been through much together, Zeratul. But far too many have sacrificed in the hopes that this moment would come to pass. Executor, commence the invasion! I can hear his whispers. Fight, Artanis. Do not let Amon consume you. Unending hatred. He has corrupted the Kala. Your nerve cords chain you to his will. They must be removed. Zeratul. Forgive me. Did you know this warrior?
No. But I know his story. I know all their stories. None of them ever think it'll end like this. Reports been coming in from all over. Dominion worlds overrun. Outposts destroyed. A lot more dead boys out there. Warriors.
Death is the fate of all warriors. A fate we too may soon embrace.
Fate ain't written, Artanis. Way I see it, if Zeratul believed you could make a difference in all this, and this fight's just begun.
It is your custom to shake the hand of a friend, is it not?
Give him hell, Artanis.
Said that those of our kind suffer, separated from the glory of the Kala.
Zeratul. Shakuris. Queen of Blades.
I am not your enemy. I have come seeking the Zelnaga.
It seems fate has drawn us together. We should not tempt it further.
Something's not right here.
The Zelnaga. No.
They're dead, Artanis.
Amon.
Now you see, with the essence of the great betrayer, your people fulfill their purpose. My host body is forged. With it, I bring an end to the cycle. An end to the infinite suffering.
My will is not so easily broken, Amon. The firstborn shall fear you no longer! Solendis! Hear me! Solendis! Templar! Rid yourselves of Amon! Sever your nerve cords!
We are one in the color.
Without the color, what will we become?
Free. Lies. Believe.
The Dark One has been banished back into the void. For now, we are free. All of this because of you. I will bring our great dream of a unified Protoss to bear. We will gather the survivors, rebuild our cities. We will reject our old divisions and forge a new society. Together, we will shape our destiny amongst the stars.
With the last of our essence, a new eternity dawns. The infinite cycles have come to their end. She is Selnaga.
These moments together, they will always be with me.
Darling.
We have to go now, Jim.
End this thing. Once and for all.
Go, Jim. Go.
Today marks the third anniversary of the fall of the Arcturus Menx regime. To memorialize this milestone, Emperor Valerian Menx held a monumental celebration in the capital wing of Augustgrad, heralding in a new age of peace and prosperity within the Terran Dominion. On the Senate steps, Admiral Matthew Horner reaffirmed the military support of the new Dominion government and expressed his optimism for the latest rounds of peace negotiations.
Hearts and minds, man. Just like you always said.
You know, Matt, someday you're gonna wind up leading this bunch of misfits.
I made a deal with the devil, Jimmy. You will hold her life in your hands.
You about ready to get out of here, cowboy?
Hell, it's about time. After years of exile, the Protoss stand poised to retake their homeworld from the Zerg. Under the leadership of their hierarch, Artanis, Protoss warriors have secured a position from which the invasion can now take hold. The Golden Armada, a massive Protoss fleet, hovers high above in orbit. There, Artanis readies his warriors for the battle ahead. During the battle, Artanis' forces encounter unexpected enemies, hybrid servants of Amon. Artanis reunites with Zeratul, who claims their hope for salvation lies in the Keystone, the Xel'Naga artifact on Korhal. However, as Zeratul leaves to retrieve it, he finds the Templar are turning against him. They have been possessed by the dark god Amon through the Khala. Zeratul hurries to reach Artanis before the corruption can consume him. Artanis flees from Aiur after freeing as many Protoss as he can. But most of the Golden Armada remains under Amon's control, annihilating worlds across the galaxy. Against these odds, Artanis seeks out Korhal, planning to retrieve the Keystone. But the Terran planet is already under assault. Mobius Corps, a faction of Terrans serving Amon, has crippled the Dominion's forces. Raynor helps Artanis secure the Keystone, but he can do no more. Artanis returns to Shakuras, home of the Dark Templar, desperately seeking their aid. Upon arriving, he finds yet another world overrun by Amon's Zerg broods. With Shakuras lost and a massive evacuation at hand, Artanis sees a chance to bleed his enemy. He sets out to destroy the planet and Amon's forces on it by overloading the Xel'Naga temple, luring hordes of Zerg into his trap. After extensive analysis, the Keystone has revealed the secret homeworld of the Xel'Naga, a place known as Ulnar. At great risk, Artanis and his crew journey there, only to find a highly advanced and mystical temple already surrounded by Amon's forces. After a long fight, the way is clear, and Artanis ventures into the temple alone, hoping to awaken the Xel'Naga Zeratul said would be their salvation. Artanis and Kerrigan fight their way to the heart of the temple, where the Xel'Naga are said to have been slumbering throughout the eons. Through ancient technology kept within the temple, they come to learn that this is where the Xel'Naga await the fulfillment of their purpose. Two races that are pure of form and essence will join together and be uplifted as a new Xel'Naga. Entering the final chamber, they are filled with hope that Zeratul's prophecy will come to pass. The Xel'Naga are long dead, killed by Amon, and cannot aid in the war against him. Artanis and Kerrigan seal a gateway to the void on Ulnar, which Amon had hoped to use to spill corroding energies into the galaxy. Now, only the Protoss remain strong enough to oppose the Dark God's rule. Resolved, Artanis makes tactical strikes, eliminating Amon's hybrid factory and uniting the full strength of his people to make a final stand on Aiur. There, he will use his newfound knowledge of the Keystone to activate it, extracting Amon from the Khala. If Artanis can convince his people to sever their nerve cords, Amon will have no bodies to indwell, and he will be sent back into the void. A year has passed since the events on Aiur. Amon has been banished to the void, but he still lives, and in time, he will return. Kerrigan gathers her allies together, telling them she has heard whispers from a benevolent voice trapped within the void. She calls them to action, choosing to go into the void through the gateway on Ulnar to defeat Amon in his lair. There, they find the source of the voice, an imprisoned Xel'Naga, Oros. He tells her that all of her actions have been to achieve her destiny of becoming a Xel'Naga. He passes his power onto Kerrigan, one who is pure of both form and essence, giving the last of his life so that she will have enough strength to destroy Amon once and for all. Kerrigan and the forces that followed her into the void stand against Amon in a final battle, destroying the fallen Xel'Naga once and for all.